Yo, what's going on, guys? This is Chris or King Swine or Igloo Boy or Swarm Lord or whatever. Guy who flicks his cards too much, too loudly. You know you actually have to buy those cards, so why are you trying to break them? That, this, and the other. Anyways, this is the deck I'm using for the Liberty Coin FNM on April 3rd. It is 5-color Golos Fires. So I'm just going to run through the deck real quick. There's a chance that it's not even going to go up because either A, it's not good quality or something. But I just figured I have some free time. So I might as well just give the option to Matt if he wants to do it or not. But anyways, 5 colors Golos Fires. So what we have here is we have what I like to call a Bant Fires deck that just splashes black. So we have Growth Spiral, Uro, and Fertile Footsteps. Those are ways to, of course, ramp up on our mana. Growth Spiral is a great turn 2 because in Fires there's not really any good turn 2 plays, but with Growth Spiral, it makes it so you can go turn 2 to turn 4. Or not turn, to go from 2 lands to 4 lands by turn 3. So then you can get Fires on turn 3 by casting like either one of your other ramp spells or your Teferi. Uro lets you gain a little bit of life, so you have a little more of a game against mono red if they're having a good draw. And then Beanstalk Giant is able to find those missing colors that you have. Sometimes when it gets later in the game and you don't have your Fires of Invention because the control players is like, I'm going to counter every Fires you have. Sometimes you just need that second black source, so you can just go grab a swamp or a mountain or whatever color you need. And then sometimes you keep like a Bant hand, and you're like, alright, it's turn 4 or 5, I'm going to cast Fertile Footsteps and grab that mountain to cast Fires of Invention. So that's pretty much just getting you those cards to round out your hand. And then this is our utility, so we have Teferi, so we don't have to worry about our stuff getting countered. We're going to play on our turn, you can play on your turn, and we're just going to have a fun, fair Magic game. And then we have Fires of Invention, of course, so we can cast 2 big, juicy spells in a turn, or we can have just like an explosive turn out of nowhere. And then Time Wipe is our way to slow down our opponents. And the reason why we have Time Wipe over Shatter the Sky is because sometimes it's nice to be like, I'm going to return my Agent of Treachery to my hand, and I'm going to destroy your board, and then I'm going to cast Agent of Treachery, stealing one of your permanents, usually like an enchantment, or sometimes just stealing a land from my opponent is what I need to do. And then we could also do it with Golos, go find another land, or something like Kenrith, where we're just like, I'm going to destroy the board and I'm going to put my Kenrith back out there, swing for 5. Whoopsie. And then in this row we have pretty much our win cons. So we have Kenrith. What he does is he just gives everything haste. So let's say it's turn 7 or 8. We have Fires of Invention on the board. We can go slam Kenrith, slam Beanstalk Giant, give them both haste and trample and swing for like 13, 14. Or if it's really late in the game, Beanstalk Giant, swing for 17. And then we also have Golos, which when we hit that later in the game and we don't have a whole lot of cards, it's nice to be able to be like, I'm going to spin Golos and cast 2 cards possibly. It just feels really bad when you hit 3 lands in a row and you're like, here you go. And then Hydroid Crisis. A lot of people are like, why do you run Hydroid Crisis in a Fires deck? But with Fires, it gives you the option of casting them for free, or you can still pay the mana, but it still counts as one of your 2 spells. So you can cast Hydroid Crisis, leave up like 1 open mana, and hopefully you can draw a Kenrith and you play Kenrith for free, and then you're like, hiya, I'm going to swing both of these haste and trample, what are you going to do about it? Sometimes you can do something spicy like that, and sometimes you just draw 2, 3, 4 cards and you just restart your game and you're like, let's go, have some fun. And then our big juicy spells are Casualties of War and Agent of Treachery. I don't really need to explain much of them. It gives you a little bit of destruction and it's fun to steal some things. And then our land base is pretty much one of every basic. We have a Castle of Antris. We have pretty much one of every shock. We have 4 breeding pools and 3 Temple of Mysteries because we want to have our turn 2 Growth Spiral, turn 3 Arrows. And then Temple Garden because not only does it have the green for Growth Spiral, Arrow, and Beanstalk Giant, but also has white for Teferi and Kenrith. And then we have just a bunch of Shocklands and Scrylands to kind of dig through our deck, try and find all of our pieces. And then our sideboard, we have 2 Devout Decrees, because Rakdos Sacrifice is a thing now. I don't know why, but it just popped up. So I was like, let's have a little bit of game versus those and be able to exile their spells. Exile Torbrand from Mono Red. Just makes it so hard matchups are a little bit easier. Aether Gust, I mean, it's pretty much a sideboard in anything blue, as well as Mystical Dispute. I mean, if you're not running it, then it's not a real blue deck. Then we have Negate, just because counter spells hurt a little bit. So being able to be like, hey, I'm going to have Fires and Adventure Resolve and there's nothing you can do about it. Or I'm going to cast a Fairy and then they're like, I'm going to counter. No, I want my Teferi. It's just one of those things. Return to Nature, it gives us the possibility of beating Wilderness Wreck. This deck struggles against Temur Reclamation because we're a slow deck and they're a slow deck, but they're able to ramp up and they're like, explosion you for 20, and I'm like, I have Earl on the field. So it's sometimes tough against that matchup, but with the sideboard, I just toss in a bunch of my counter magic, toss in Return to Nature, and it makes it possible. And then we have Flame Sweep in here because there's a lot of low to the ground decks right now. Mono white, mono red, mono black-ish. Some of their spells are a little more expensive. I don't know in this situation if I'd put in time Flame Sweep or not. But it's mainly for those low to the ground decks. It's just like, I'm going to destroy your entire field, but it doesn't touch anything in my deck. Have fun. And then we also have Tolsimir. It gives us a possibility to beat mono red as well, because you can go like turn 3 or turn 4 Tolsimir, and you're like, I'm going to play this 3/3, make another 3/3, gain 3 life, and destroy your creature, which is usually a smaller creature than Voja. So it gives you 2 3/3 blockers while also killing one of their creatures while giving you 3 life. So it's pretty much like a 4-for-1. Sometimes it's only like a 2-for-1, but even still, a 2-for-1 is really good when you're versus mono red that has a bunch of 1 mana, 2 mana spells. But this is overall 5-color fires. One of my favorite plays is casting Kenrith, and then with its final ability, you can bring back something like Golos or Agent of Treachery, and you're like, ha, you thought this is gone, let's bring it back. So that's why I don't know if it'll happen in any of my games, but when I escape Uro, you have to be careful not to exile your creatures that you want to return. Just something to watch out for. I have been thinking about adding a third Kenrith into the deck. I feel like that's just one of those things where it's up to the player. It's a great card. I love it. But sometimes when you're super far ahead, it feels really bad to have multiple copies of Kenrith because some decks just have no way to remove it. But some decks, it's just important that you have the third one. So I'm thinking about adding the third one, but I don't know what to take out yet. So just going to do a little more testing with it before I make a final decision. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this little deck tech. There's a chance that Matt will leave the deck in the description. If not, no worries. This is my deck. I don't know if it's easier to see it here. But if you want the exact deck list, this is what all I have. Your Shocklands and Scrylands can be changed up a little bit, but I just make sure to have the 4 breeding pools and 3 Temple of Mysteries, just because hitting the blue and the green is super important. And then once again, this is my sideboard. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for sticking with Liberty Coin through all this craziness, and I will catch you guys on the next video, or hopefully you guys watch the other videos and see my 4 games. But if not, enjoy Garrison's videos and anyone else that's recording, and I'll catch you guys at another time. Deuces.